What if everything you were worth could be summed up in a single number? Your education, your career, your place in society. A world where human worth could be measured with a pencil and a page of questions. This is the story of the IQ test, a tool invented over a century ago that promised to rank human intelligence and change the way the world judged people forever. Our story begins in France. At the dawn of the 20th century, the country faced a crisis. Its schools were failing to identify children who struggled with learning. Enter Alfred Binet, a French psychologist tasked by the Ministry of Education to create a solution. Binet didn't want to label children forever. He simply wanted a practical tool, a way to identify students who needed extra help. Alongside his colleague, Theodore Simon, he designed the first intelligence test in 1905. It wasn't about measuring innate genius. It was about understanding mental age, the level of cognitive development relative to children of the same chronological age. Binet warned, it is important to remember that the test does not measure innate intelligence. It measures acquired skills at a given moment. Yet, his invention would soon escape this humble purpose. In the United States, H. Goddard, an American psychologist, discovered Binet's test. But unlike Binet, Goddard had bigger, more controversial ideas. He renamed it the Stanford Binet test after his work at Stanford University, and he believed it could measure inborn intelligence, not just learned skills. Goddard used the test to justify some of the most extreme ideas of his time. The belief that intelligence was hereditary, that some people were feeble-minded, and that society could be improved by limiting who could reproduce. In Ellis Island, IQ tests were used on immigrants. Those who scored low were often labeled defective or unfit. Millions faced discrimination, and some were denied entry to America. The test was no longer a neutral tool. It became a weapon to rank human worth. Meanwhile, the eugenics movement was rising. Scientists, policymakers, and social reformers began using IQ tests to claim that intelligence, and even morality, was genetic. Marriage restrictions, forced sterilizations, and segregated schools were justified by scientific data. But the tests were deeply flawed. They were culturally biased, favoring wealthy, educated children over poor or immigrant children. They were often misused, interpreted as measuring permanent, innate intelligence, rather than momentary performance. And yet, governments and institutions embraced them. They offered a seductive promise, a scientific way to improve society. In America, IQ tests were used in schools to track students into vocational or academic paths. The implication was clear. Your number could determine your future. World War I accelerated the spread of IQ testing. The U.S. Army needed a way to quickly classify recruits. They introduced the Army Alpha and Beta tests, administering IQ tests to over 1 million soldiers. Alpha for literate recruits, Beta for illiterate or non-English speaking recruits. The tests were touted as a scientific miracle, but they revealed the same biases as civilian tests. Immigrants and black soldiers often scored lower, not because of innate ability, but because of language, education, and cultural differences. The military experience showed that IQ tests were powerful and dangerous. They could sort people into roles, justify inequality, and influence policy, all under the guise of science. By mid-20th century, IQ tests were everywhere. Schools, workplaces, and research labs. Psychologists refined them, introducing the Wechsler scales, which measured verbal and performance intelligence separately. But the question remained, what does an IQ number really mean? Modern science shows that intelligence is far more complex than a single number. Factors like creativity, emotional intelligence, and social skills cannot be captured by a test. Yet, the cultural myth persists. IQ is often treated as a fixed, innate quality. A score becomes a label, a number that silently judges your worth. The IQ test reminds us of the danger of reducing human beings to numbers. It's a tool, yes, but only if we remember its limits. Today, IQ tests are still used in education and research, but there's growing awareness of their flaws, biases, and ethical implications. The story of IQ testing is a cautionary tale. Science can illuminate the human mind, or it can be twisted to justify discrimination, inequality, and oppression. Human worth cannot and should not be quantified by a single number. From a French classroom to Ellis Island, from military camps to modern schools, the IQ test has shaped the world in ways both practical and troubling. It began as a tool to help children. It became a tool to judge, rank, and divide. And today, it reminds us that numbers alone can never capture the complexity of a human life.